And that will go a very long way. And one of the things that, let's say you're starting out and you don't have the revenue yet to be able to hire a branding agency, you want to make sure that one, I talked about earlier, just getting a consultant who can just spend a couple hours with you, making sure that you get the messaging right. And then from there, you can hire freelancers for the time being, but all the while knowing in your mind that this is temporary and that on the top of my to-do list, once I reach X amount of revenue per year, one of my projects is to establish a solid brand that's going to then carry me forward.
You're listening to the Black to Business podcast, an educational podcast providing Black entrepreneurs with the tools and resources to start and grow their businesses. We chat with vetted Black entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and business owners as they provide tips and resources to help take your business to the next level. I'm your host, Monique T. Marshall. So before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to share a quick story. Because as you know, I like to overshare or just share about my entrepreneur journey with Black to Business. So when I first started Black to Business, I had to get scrappy because your girl was on a budget. And that meant doing my website myself, doing the branding myself, and doing a whole lot of other things myself. And I'm embarrassed to admit that the first iteration of our website was not that great. And to add to that, I was getting inquiries from people who were not my ideal community. So I knew that there was a problem, and I thought to myself, as soon as I can, I'm investing in a brand expert, a business strategist, and a web developer. And that's exactly what I did. And things have honestly changed for the better. So my website looks better, but most importantly, we are clear on who we serve and our audience are clear on what we do. So because one of the main reasons we do this podcast is to help you either not make the same mistakes we made or to help you fix it if you're in a situation now. So we like to speak with experts. So speaking of experts, joining me today is Rose, the CEO of Nectar Digital Group. And today we're going to be discussing the importance of a great brand impression. Rose is going to walk us through how to get your brand messaging right, what to do if you're having a hard time explaining what your business does, and how you can lose business when you don't invest in your branding. So let's dive into it. So welcome, Rose. We are so excited to have you on the episode today. I'm excited about the topic that we're going to discuss. So welcome to the Black to Business podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here, and thank you for the invite.
Of course. So before we get started, I always like to ask my guests to briefly explain or share your story for the listeners who may be new to you. And how did you get to where you are, and what is it exactly that you do in your business?
Great. Where do I start? It's a winding road, really. So currently, I own a business called Nectar Digital Group. It is a digital agency that helps business owners leverage technology to reach new heights in their business. So we help entrepreneurs with services and also education to better represent themselves online, leverage technology to build future-proof companies and scalable companies. And a huge part of what we do is we help service-based businesses specifically strategize their expansion and build thought leadership online so that they can, charge premium prices, reach their business goals, and really establish a solid brand for themselves that can be lasting and that can get them to where they want to go. So that's what we do currently. And like I mentioned, we offer services and education as well. So I love doing workshops all the time. I love teaching. So I like to give information to business owners who are maybe at earlier stage of their business growth as well. How that got started, oh man, where do I start? Okay, so let's start from the beginning. So my first intro to entrepreneurship was in college. I was studying something completely different. I was not a business major by any means. I was actually studying psychology and biology, and what I was interested in was to go into the medical field. But what really captivated my attention is all of the psychology classes that I was taking. And I also loved learning about the human brain and how people perceive their experience as a human being. And that was that was the thing that really grabbed onto me. And coincidentally, I went to school in Tallahassee. It's the capital of Florida, but it's actually a pretty small town. So there were a lot of inequities in that town, especially for the Black residents of that town. And me and a couple of friends, we decided that it would be good to offer some solutions to the community specifically around helping the youth build leadership skills and mentoring. And so that was really my first intro to business. And we started a little nonprofit in college. And I was just so captivated by the whole experience of having an idea, implementing it, and really building something that can be beneficial to other people. But at the same time, I continued on with my studies, behavioral neuroscience, just kept studying. I ended up going to grad school. But I decided later on in grad school that the path that I was going down, what I was studying, was not exactly what I wanted to do. And so I pivoted and segmented and got into technology. Just again, coincidentally, it happened. It wasn't planned or anything, but it happened. I started working for a tech startup and I fell in love with that. I just absolutely fell in love with technology. The way that the world is moving, technology nowadays is exactly how the world is moving. So I started a consulting company. That was my second business. And in the process of starting that business, I had a vision for what I wanted to create with the brand. And I hired a couple people to see if they could help me implement the brand and build a website to the vision, to match the vision that I had in mind. And it didn't quite work out. So I thought, hey, why don't I try to learn how to do this myself? And so that's how the branding and marketing really started. So I learned everything there is to know about branding. And it captivated me again because I didn't realize that it would be such a close relationship to what I was studying in school, which is the psychology and behavioral neuroscience. Well, mostly psychology in the marketing and branding space. And I found that it was such a great way to be creative and to use my strategic mind to help other business owners get to their goals as well. And it kind of, the rest is history from there.
I love it. I love it. A lot of the things that you said, I feel like it will really resonate with our audience. And so I'm so excited to talk about today's topic, which is kind of what you've done, with your career and also with your business is you've also pivoted, but also rebranding. And I know a lot of people who are listening, they are just starting. So they're trying to figure out how can they rebrand their business or brand their business so that it makes an impression. So like you mentioned, to get those high paying clients. So I want to take a step back and talk about why does focusing on branding in your business really matter?
I always say that the way that business owners should look at their business is look at your business as a real person, as one of your best friends. So what connects you to your best friend and why you keep talking to that best friend and why you want to continue growing with that person and experiencing life together is their personality, their values, and the things that make them uniquely them. And it's the same exact thing with your business, especially now with the digital world. There are billions of websites, literally billions of websites. There are so many businesses, which is a great thing, but that also means that the space is very saturated.
Right.
So what will really help you make a mark and reach your goals for, profitability, impact, growth, whatever your mission whatever your mission happens to be, is really that brand. And a brand can carry you far. And there's a very good reason that corporate companies pay billions of dollars a year on branding alone. I'm not talking about marketing. So that's an important distinction to make. branding alone, corporate companies spend billions of dollars a year doing it because it's effective. It's all psychology. It's essentially building a personality for your business that people can remember and grab onto. And you trust people a lot more when you understand who they are, when you understand their values, when you understand what you can and cannot expect from them. So it's the same exact thing with your business. That's really what you want to do. And especially for service-based entrepreneurs, it's the need to build a brand is exponentially more important, even more important, because a lot of what you'll be bringing forth is based on who you are, what you value, and figuring out what your niche is and where you can really make a huge impact is all about branding and getting that right.
I love that. And one of the important things, like you mentioned, is they spend, like a lot of these corporations, they spend thousands or a lot of money or budgets toward these branding materials and such. So for, of course, entrepreneurs in that first 1 to 3 year mark, they're trying to decide, okay, this is where I should allocate, or how much should I focus on my branding messaging, or is it my logo, or what is it that it encompasses in terms of like branding, would you say?
Great question. Oftentimes, first, let's make an important distinction. Oftentimes, business owners don't know the difference between branding and marketing. Like I was saying earlier, branding is, what is that personality that you're creating for your business? Like, what does that person sound like? What do they look like, right? And there's a lot of strategy that goes into it. And you need to do that first. You need to figure out who that person is, who your business is, before you can go out and tell people, hey, this is my business, come buy from me. The going out and telling people this is my business, come buy from me, that is marketing. So that is like social media, email, or even like advertising. That is marketing, but it won't be effective if you don't have the branding piece right in the first place. So for business owners just starting out, what I would highly, highly recommend, it may be tempting to say, okay, well, I don't have the budget yet, so I'm going to just kind of DIY everything. What I would recommend is getting someone who knows what they're doing to at least do the consulting pieces to kind of give you some baseline strategy for how you can start to present yourself. So something that's crucial is clearly defining who your audience is. And that's the first step of any good branding strategy. Define very clearly who your audience is. And then after you define who your audience is, you have to do some soul searching to really figure out, well, who am I? What do I want to bring to the world? What values do I want to represent? And how do I communicate that? So for example, is my brand going to be, do I want to serve more bigger clients? And what do those bigger clients want to see from a small business? Or do I want to keep working with small businesses? And what do small businesses want to see from another small business? And what segment of that population really matches my personality that it will be a natural fit? So one of the things that happens with good branding, for example, I'll give you a personal example with my business. The brand that I've developed is so me. It completely aligns with who I am and how I function normally, that when I have a prospective client, I don't have to convince them of anything. I just talk to them naturally. I'm myself. I'm authentic, and they see that. And if they're a good match, then they sign on. I don't have to do any sales, pretty much. So branding is super powerful because it saves you so much time and effort, and it just saves you a lot of time and effort in trying to make a sale. And not only that, it allows you to attract more of your ideal clients as well, so that you don't have to fish for people who are not a good match. So to kind of wrap up the answer to your question, strategy, I would recommend, at least if you can afford a couple hours with someone who knows what they're doing, get their take on what your positioning statement should be. Your positioning statement will really define not only what you offer, but how do you stand in your market and what makes you different? What could make you different? What is that sweet spot for you, for your specific business, what you're offering and what your personality is? And once you have your strategy set up and the brand personality, then the fun parts of it, I guess, would be creating that visually. So your logo and your website, those are just symptoms of your brand. They're not your actual brand. Your brand is the strategy behind those things.
I love that. So would you say that branding is more so how are you connecting with your ideal audience, or how you making them feel, versus marketing is, okay, this is how I'm going to reel you in, and these are the colors and things like that that reel you in?
Great question. So I'll go back to the analogy of looking at your business as a person. So imagine that you have a new baby, right? And let's say you get to pick who that baby becomes. So you get to pick the baby's personality. Are they jovial? Are they fun to be around? Are they funny? Are they more serious and more intellectual? Or are they more playful? So that's literally what the branding exercise is figuring out, who do I want my business to be? And how do I want, another part of that is, how do I want the business to stand in the market, which is going back to the positioning statement. So that baby, that new person that I just created, do I want them to be a doctor and be in this space? Do I want them to be a corporate executive to be in this space? Do I want them to be an artist? So the way that an artist talks versus the way that a doctor talks are completely different, right? Their tone of voice is different. Maybe their energy levels would be different. The people they hang around would be different. So it's the same thing.
Gotcha. So how would you know if what you're doing is working?
Great. Another great question. Data. Data is the gold mine that every big company knows how to use properly, but small businesses often don't. So this is going to the marketing piece. So we talked about branding extensively, which is figuring out who that person is, right? And then the marketing is saying, hey, this is who I am, just showing people on social media, this is who I am, come buy from me. And with the marketing, you have to think from beginning to end. So when someone first finds out about me, what is their process all the way to the end of closing the sale with me, right? So that's essentially what the difference is between the branding and the marketing. And you want to track every step of that process. So the first step in trying to get visibility into your data is to literally write down every step of the process, from the branding stage all the way to the end of the process where somebody actually purchases something from you. So you want to map everything out. So for example, awareness. How many new people found out about me this month? Right? And then the next stage, how many new people from the audience that found out about me this month on social media, for example, how many of them signed up to my newsletter? Right? So you want to track those things and to see what those, you want to make sure that you're looking at those numbers and how they're changing over time. And another really good way that you could tell whether your brand is working or not is literally by just asking people and talking to people. So, for example, if you're finding that you're having a hard time explaining to people exactly what you do, then your brand is not working. Also, if you're finding that let's say you overhear someone explain what you do to someone else and they're getting it wrong, your brand is not working. If your website looks quite different from your social media pages in terms of the way that you're communicating, in terms of the looks, then your brand is not working, right? So branding is something that beyond just the more short-term analytics, you can clearly see very quickly whether something is a part of the process is working or not. But one way that you can really track your branding is long-term. So in a year's time or 2 years' time after you've done the exercise of strategizing, are you able to charge a more premium price and people will pay for that? And then secondly, look at what percentage of my clients right now are my ideal clients, right? Versus what it was before. So those are all things that you can really look at to see whether your brand is working, because the more you work on your brand and invest in your brand, the more you can charge. You can pretty much charge for everything. So To kind of give you another example, with an agency, someone can go to Fiverr and pay $500 for a website. There are agencies that pay that charge $100,000 for a website or a brand package. So what is the difference there, right? And the difference is all branding.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned that too, because one of the things you talked about before and you just mentioned is you want to attract those, the top paying clients, or, your ideal clients, because some people, they want to attract the middle level. They're not necessarily going after the big ticket items. And one of the things I like that you mentioned is being clear in the messaging or who you're attracting, because I will say most of the time when I'm looking at someone, I'm going to go look at their website and say, is this clean? And people, sometimes they don't care, because what about those people that have a janky website, but they do real work? So what are you going to say to those people who can't afford to, hire these big time, web designers or things like that? And how do they plan to be able to afford those things or get it done regardless?
Yeah. So if you can get your copywriting right, and you're very clear about outlining, 1, what your services are, 2, what the benefits are, and 3, who those services are for, then the website will be helped a lot by that. So if you can get your messaging right on the website, so you want to touch on those 3 things. What are your services? What are those benefits of those services? And 3, who is it for? And that will go a very long way. And one of the things that, let's say you're starting out and you don't have the revenue yet to be able to hire a branding agency, you want to make sure that, 1, I talked about earlier, just getting a consultant who can just spend a couple hours with you, making sure that you get the messaging right. And then from there, you can hire freelancers for the time being, but all the while knowing in your mind that this is temporary and that on the top of my to-do list, once I reach X amount of revenue per year, one of my projects is to establish a solid brand that's going to then carry me forward. I'll give you another example. Just earlier today, I was on the phone with a prospective client who wanted to there was someone who was thinking of them for a big deal, right? So a big client. And the person said, well, I can't refer you to that caliber of client with the way your website is looking. It's just not going to work.
Wow.
Yeah. So sometimes it's that extreme. So you want to make sure that you're investing in those things and don't be cheap about it, because your return will come back many, many fold over. Another example is I had a client who was doing quite well. She was already doing quite well before, but she had no strategy and she was just kind of putting things out there, but she had big goals for her business. And so when she came to me, she said, well, my website is not that great and I don't really have a solid brand. I mean, sometimes I post on LinkedIn about this topic, and then the other times I'm posting on Facebook about another topic, and I'm not quite sure that my brand is making sense and it's cohesive to people. So the first thing we did, got her strategy right, make sure that we knew exactly who we were talking to, and we limited the audience to 2 to 3 people max. 2 to 3 types of people, meaning is it going to be small business owners in the finance industry, like that specific? Is it going to be tech startups that have 2 million in revenue that do XYZ? So you want your audience to be that specific so that you can strategize. So once we had a clear idea of who her audience is and what her strengths are, and a lot of it is soul searching too, right? So really figuring out who you are. So we did all of this. And after we did all of that for her, it just skyrocketed. So she started like a bunch of people that she met years ago that she kind of lost touch with. They all came back. Oh, I have this opportunity for you. I have that opportunity for you. I have this thing that I think would work really well for you. And she had journalists reach out to her reach out to her for expertise, because now she had a solid brand that portrayed her as a thought leader in her industry. And that's the power of branding. And that's why, again, big companies, they use their resources wisely to invest in branding, and again, to kind of bring it back home to people without a huge budget. Even literally just 1 hour, 1 to 2 hours with someone who knows what they're doing. And from there, they can help guide the process. If you don't have the money for the implementation, just get someone to kind of do oversight, who can kind of review. Let's say you have a marketing assistant. So once you have a brand strategist, or a CMO level person, they can kind of oversee what that marketing person is doing and give you pointers to get you in the right direction.
And it's so interesting. I'm glad that you mentioned that, Rose, because those are all great points. I can even speak from experience as far as, when I got really clear on my messaging with my branding with Black to Business, I did see business skyrocket as far as, getting out who was my customer avatar and speaking directly to that person. And this is who we stand for, and getting really niche specific on who we stood for. I definitely seen, more outreach and more clients and things come to us. But also, taking the time to get an investment on my website and things like that, and branding materials as far as, the colors, your brand colors and things like that. I definitely saw the difference.
Yeah, sometimes people are scared to niche down because they think that, I don't want to miss anyone. I need the revenue.
Right.
Not knowing that it's counterproductive to do that. So when you niche down, you can actually price way up. And that feeds right into your bottom line. You can handle, if you want to handle less clients, but just more premium clients, and get even more revenue with less work, then that's like a sweet deal to me. Or if you want to get more clients and hire people to handle the implementation for you, you want to really be sure that you have a specific niche, that your goal should be to be the go-to company for XYZ in this XYZ industry.
Definitely. And I also want to talk about, I know you kind of touched on this in the beginning, what's the power of having a human experience? Like we just talked about, speaking to that person, or that being the expert for XYZ. What do you see the power in that, in the increase in profits as well? If you could just touch on your background in, psychology and such, and how have you been able to see that?
Yeah, of course. So business is an extension of who we are. It's an extension of the person making it, right? There's no separation. And the businesses that don't do as well are businesses that are business owners who don't understand that relationship between who you are and how they should look at their business as an extension of themselves. Psychology is everything. And if you want to connect with people, and the data shows this, if you look at any data nowadays, especially now with the digital world and with so much happening, so much stimulation, and people, think about how many websites people visit on a daily basis, or how many social media profiles they visit on a daily basis. What they're really looking for, whether they're an entrepreneur or not, is that human connection. They want to know who you are as a person. So the psychology aspect of it is everything, and emotionally connecting with your audience is everything. So don't be afraid to be vulnerable. And if you go on Instagram right now, the people who have hundreds of thousands of followers or millions of followers, they share their real lives and their real stories. So to kind of make it more, to bring it home for small business owners. So let's say you are a solopreneur and you are in the process of building your business. You want to be sure that you give people a behind the scenes look into a day in your life. So if you're a solopreneur and you're very hands-on and collaborative with your clients, that's what you want to say online, right? You don't want to portray yourself as this huge company when you're not. So authenticity ties in directly with the human element of it, and everything that we do online should be a reflection of what you would do in person. Again, to give you an example, think about like how you normally interact socially with people in person, right? So you won't just see someone walking down the street and say, hey, will you marry me? And they're probably going to say, no.
Maybe in Rona times, you never know nowadays, but you're right.
But the most likely response is, okay, weirdo, get away from me. So it's the same thing. It's the same thing, right? So the purpose of the purpose of the digital platforms really is to show people who you are so they can get to know you. And once they get to know you, then they can make a decision whether they want to marry you or not, right? But it's not to say you shouldn't be using your social media to say, buy this from me, buy this from me, buy this from me, buy this from me. That's not the purpose of it. And especially for small business owners, your mission for social media should be to have a bunch of the human element in your communications and to keep providing value and knowledge to people. That's what will get people to buy from you. And there's we can have a whole conversation about this, but it's called inbound marketing. And that's really the future. That's really the future of marketing and how people connect nowadays with business. And it's all emotional.
Yes. Well, that is so good. So here we are, we have, someone who's out there listening and they're like, they've been thinking about rebranding or just starting their business. And one of the things I really want to move into, because I know we kind of discussed it before we got on the call, but is those who are struggling with, deciding if I should rebrand. I've been thinking about taking my business in this direction. I've gotten back some feedback and I just don't know what people would think about this rebrand. So what advice do you have for those who are, rebranding, and just share a little bit about your experience with rebranding and pivoting?
Yeah, that's the fear, I guess, of failure is something that is prevalent for business owners, and even some business owners who understand the need for it, and they make the investment to hire a company like mine to do the work for them. Sometimes it's like this attachment and like fear of, oh, are people going to like me? Are people going to like me? Am I doing the right thing by limiting my audience? So that's always going to be there. So the thing that is transformational for any business owner to have is really a mindset shift of agility and experimentation, because that's what will allow your business to be future-proof. The digital world changes so much that if you think what has worked in the past is going to work for you in the future, you are gravely mistaken, because it changes so constantly. Even as marketers who do this like day in and day out, I'm constantly having to learn new things, new strategies, new technologies for how to do this, new ways to present the brand, right? Because as digital marketing is changing and evolving, so is branding, so is the emotional cues that people look for, right? So the mindset shift that business owners really need to have is they need to embrace a spirit of experimentation and a spirit of agility, that you can't be attached to things. You can't be too attached to what you look like or too attached to what your idea or assumptions are in your mind, right? Because the data should be able to guide your decisions. So if the data is telling you your brand is not working, or if you are scared to jump the gun, but you don't have the number of clients that you want, and you don't have the caliber of clients that you want, then you're going to have to just get over that fear. Honestly, you're just going to have to get over that fear and just jump the gun. But just also make sure that as you're making these decisions to brand or to pivot or to go in a different direction, that you are using data to drive those decisions, rather than making them based on hunches and assumptions.
Definitely. I love that. And I like that you mentioned, because it is true. I feel like the old way has been, I have this brand, I have this message, and I have to stick to it. And what you really said just stuck with me is that you have to be continuously have your brand evolving, or else you would be like the Blockbuster or something of this.
Yeah, exactly. Or GameStop, unless, teenagers decide to bail you out.
Of course, right? That is true. So, Rose, you have shared so much valuable knowledge. I just want to talk about what is it like working with you. So, if I was a business owner that were interested in using your service, like what is it that you can help me with?
Great question. So it depends on what their exact needs are. But so for someone who has been in business for, let's say, 3 years, and they have a fair amount of success, but they're asking themselves, well, I want to reach 1 million in the next couple of weeks. That would be awesome.
Sign me up, Rose. Sign me up.
Yeah, I want to reach 1 million in the next couple of years, and I have this big goal, but I'm not quite sure what I need to do or how to get there. And so typically a lot of my clients are in that kind of category. So they come to me and they say, well, Rose, I want to, I know that what I'm doing now is okay, but it's not great because it's not getting me the results that I want. And I want more. I want to reach that new audience, or I want to enter this new industry, or I want to increase my revenue. So the first thing that I do is strategy. So I talk with them about their long-term and short-term vision. And from there, we do tons of market research. And then we craft a strategy for how to move backwards, basically start at their long-term vision and then move backwards for how we can implement that tangibly. And oftentimes a rebrand is part of that. So which means that just getting down to basics, who are their audience? Who is their customer? Who is their ideal customer? What is their brand personality? What is what are their mission? What is their mission statement? What are their core values? And how do we say that verbally? And then how do we say that visually? So that includes the copywriting, the copywriting, and then that translates also to the visual elements like the website, the logo. And then the part that is, I guess, another part that is everlasting for the business owner is we help them build automated, effective, and strategic marketing systems. And something that it happens every single time, and every single time I hear a business owner who's been at least a little bit successful tell me, oh, I don't have an email list, or it's kind of just like all over the place. And it's still always shocking to me when I hear that. And one of the things, so I help those business owners build their marketing engines from beginning to end and automate everything, making sure that everything talks to each other seamlessly. So when someone is interested in your service or even thinking about it, that you're making the process easy for them, because way too many business owners make the process of transacting with them way too hard on their customers. And so that's basically what I do. And some of my clients, they hire us on to keep managing their brand and our marketing for them. So that looks like crafting monthly strategy plans for their marketing and then implementing it with email marketing and social media marketing. And another huge thing that I like to do and I love to do, and I do it often, is workshops. So for business owners who are maybe at earlier stages of their business and they don't quite have the revenue to be able to hire us yet. So I teach workshops all the time to teach people how to do these things themselves.
Love that. And, we're going to get into, how they could connect with you. One of the things I want to ask you about is, we have entrepreneurs who are just in the first, just thinking about starting a business or before the 3-year mark. So one of the things I like to ask guests is, what is something, it doesn't have to be brand new related. What is something when you were starting your business at any of these stages that you wish you knew then that you know now?
Ooh, that's such a good question. First, I would say get a mentor like yesterday, as quickly as possible. Because that will save you so much learning the hard way. When you can, people always say, I stand on the shoulders of giants, right? So find those giants and ask them if you can stand on their shoulders, because that will just save you so much time. And Also, my first high-paying client I got because of my mentor who referred that person to me. So they can help you in multiple ways. That's one of the first things that I would say. Secondly, put yourself in communities with other entrepreneurs that you can learn from. And I recommend trying to find communities where entrepreneurs are either at the same stage or further along than you. I always say that if you're always in a room where you're the smartest person, then you're doing something wrong. You're in the wrong types of rooms. So, and then invest in learning and education. So that would be my advice.
Definitely. And as a business owner, we are always, time is money and time is very important. So what is something, either it can be your tool or, just something that you've recently introduced, or what is something that has been a lifesaver for you as a business owner to keep you on track?
Ooh, the most transformational thing that I implement, well, besides technology, I love technology, and I think there's so much potential for technology to just save us a bunch of time and hassle, especially as a service business owner where you have to worry about servicing your clients and also worrying about growing your business. It's like so let's say you have a roster of like 20 clients, right? And then you have your own client, you have your own business. It's like having 21 businesses at the same time. Right. So it's a lot. So it's good to leverage technology in general and just use different tools that can help you automate things. But the thing that was transformational for me when I implemented it in my business, and I used to do this when I was working in corporate, I was like a coach, an agile coach that helped software developers develop better software quicker and on budget, is this 2-week system of project management called Scrum. So basically, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but I'll explain it for the audience. But Scrum is a super powerful way of breaking up the work and your goals in your business. And then very, very quickly experiment and see what works, what doesn't work. And then literally in 2 weeks, you're pivoting if something doesn't work. So basically how it works is you start in the beginning of the sprint. So a 2-week cycle is called a sprint. In the beginning of the sprint, you and whoever's working on your business with you, you think about what the main goal is for those 2 weeks. So for example, let's say you want to get more leads for your service-based business. And one of the best ways to do that is exactly what I'm doing right now, is like joining a podcast, for example, right? So you can say that my main marketing thing for those 2 weeks is to market myself through a podcast or through some blog articles, and that that's your focus for those 2 weeks. And everybody on your team can rally around the same focus for those 2 weeks. And every day you're kind of just checking in very quickly with them, like 15 minutes. Hey, how's it going with the goal? And you break everything down into smaller tasks. And you break up the sprints however it makes sense for you to finish them, right? So if it's something quick, then you can decide to do 1-month sprints. But let's say you're doing a big marketing campaign, then it might make sense for you to do a 1-month a 1-month sprint. So you break everything down and you have a singular goal, or at the maximum 2 big goals that you have that you can accomplish within that sprint. And what that allows you to do is at the end of those 2 weeks or that month, however long you want the sprint to be, you're able to look at the data. So what you would do at the end of it, you would do like a retrospective. So in the retrospective, you're looking at everything. You're looking at the data. You're looking at how you and your team work together. And you're having an honest conversation with whoever's involved in the process to see where points of improvements happen. So that does a few things. That allows you to be very, very focused on specific goals, which we all know that when you're focused, you're able to be more productive and effective. Secondly, literally every 2 weeks or every month, you're looking at your data and you're making strategic decisions for how to move forward. And that is powerful. It sounds simple, but it is extremely powerful. It has allowed me to grow very quickly, and I've seen how it helps companies just like accelerate very, very quickly because you're pivoting and always moving and always changing. So imagine when COVID hit, right? When COVID first hit, a lot of business owners didn't know what to do because they kind of had their long-term plan and they kind of had an idea in their mind of what they wanted to do. And they weren't able to be agile enough to be able to quickly pivot and to quickly adapt to the new normal. And that's the power of being agile and implementing this kind of like a sprint system in your business. And you can do this for operational tasks. You can do this for marketing and sales. It's super powerful for that as well. So how it would apply to marketing and sales, you can have an idea. Let's say for those 2 weeks, you want to test out whether Instagram is effective. And so you decide what you're going to test for those 2 weeks, and then you actually run the experiment. Or let's say you want to test whether your sales script is effective. If you do have a sales script, then you can decide what you want to test, what specific part of the sales script you want to test, and you run that test for 2 weeks. And at the end of the 2 weeks, you decide, well, was this effective or was this not effective? And if it was not effective, then you're going to make that decision right then and there. What thing can we change to test? What's the next thing that we can test, basically? And so doing that just makes such a big difference. It makes such a big difference in the way that you run your business and the way that you're able to grow and future-proof it.
I love that. And I also think that's an amazing system because a lot of times I feel like we spend more time than we need to, or we even give ourselves too much time on something. So to be, like that seems like, if I have this goal to get this done, if it works, it works. But also move on to the next thing if it doesn't. So we're not wasting time in our business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this is also super backed by psychology and data and science. Mm-hmm. That when we are working on multiple things at the same time, we're not able to, first of all, you're most likely not going to get it all done, or even just one thing, you're not going to be able to do it really well.
Right.
But if you and your whole team has a singular focus for X period of time, then you know exactly what you're testing, you know exactly what you're measuring, you know exactly what the big goal is. And so when things that are not as important kind of come to the surface, you know how to prioritize things so that you can stay focused on your goals.
Love it. So that was definitely a gem. I'm going to mention that in the resources at the bottom. Also, I wanted to ask one more question is, what is your recommended read for entrepreneurs?
Oh, I have a lot. Okay, to be completely honest with you, I'm not the type of person who can just sit there and read business books. I can't do it. But what has been very helpful for me over the years is audiobooks. So, So when it comes to, I love reading fiction books and things that are like more story based. But when it comes to just straight business books, I can't just pick up a book and just sit there and read it. So I purchased all of my business books via audiobook on Audible. And one of the ones that is very powerful, you probably have already heard of, is Profits First.
Yes.
First. That is a gem. That is a gem. And so one of the things that I really wanted to get better at in the beginning of my business is financial management and thinking more like a strategic financial person as well, and just knowing what's happening in my business in terms of numbers, how much I'm spending. So there are tons of different books about finances, or even personal finances. Another one that I like was The Richest Man in Babylon. It's just an interesting story, and just financial management books as well. And I've read quite a few books from big entrepreneurs who have accomplished different things, like Negotiating with Giants is another good one. So there are a lot of books that have helped me through the years of my business.
Awesome. And so, Rose, you've given us a lot of good information. So, of course, I'm pretty sure people are going to want to know how to connect with you and how to support what you're doing. You did mention that you do host workshops. So how can people take advantage of your upcoming workshops?
That is a great question. I'm actually launching an accelerator soon.
Ooh.
Yes, I'm launching an accelerator to exactly what I was talking about earlier, to get business owners from point A of not having a system, an automated marketing system that does the work for them, to actually building out a scalable, profitable marketing system, also with strategy, branding strategy to back that up. So I'm taking business owners over the course of about 6 weeks and teaching them how to do it from scratch and what technologies to implement, how to do their digital marketing from their social media, and then how that relates to their emails, and then literally just the whole, making sure that they have a solid, robust digital marketing system that is automated and that is scalable. So that information will be available on the website, and they can sign up to work with me in the accelerator on the website.
Got it. And how can people connect with you and follow what you're doing? Any social media, any website information you want to provide?
Yes. So my website is nectardx.com. As a Nectar Digital Group is nectardx.com. So you can sign up for the newsletter there. In terms of social media, on Instagram, we are Nectar Digital Group. And on all of the other social media platforms like LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, we are Nectar DX, NECTAR-DX.
And there you have it. So Rose, thank you so much for dropping a lot of gems and information for our audience. I'm sure people took away something or a lot of things like I did. So thank you for being a part of the podcast and sharing your knowledge and expertise.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure.
Of course. And until next time, guys. That was good. And one of the aha moments for me was when Rose mentioned that one of her clients lost business solely based on how her website looked. She didn't say she lost the business because she couldn't do the work. It was just based on her website. And wow, let's talk about a sad situation, but it's reality. First impressions do matter. And I will never forget once I was on social media and I came across this tweet that said, "Why do most Black business brands have that look?" And I knew exactly what they meant. It was that dated look. Just, it looked bad. And I remember, in the spirit of oversharing, I used to be there. I remember trying to do everything in my business, build the website, make the graphics, just team too much. And I'm not talking about when I couldn't afford to outsource, but I'm speaking about when I could. I also remember wanting people to be a part of an event or be on a podcast. And deep inside, I knew that it was because my brand had that look, the dated look. So I immediately worked on fixing it and did a complete rebrand. And Rose also mentioned that our brand has to be ever evolving. So we're a family here, and we have to know that impressions do matter. And sadly, people are more critical of Black businesses. So when you can, invest in your business. And I won't go too much into it, but maybe if you're in a similar situation that I was in, work on fixing it and investing in yourself and your business, and maybe speaking with an expert like Rose mentioned, or starting with a consultation. So do the work, family, and until next time.